Hey, what's going on? This is Chris with Phoenix Gaming. Today we're going to kick off our series on how to play Firefight. This is episode 1. I am going to do a whole series. It'll have its own playlist. The goal is to break down the game in bite-sized chunks. So I'm not trying to have this be a half an hour video. I'm hoping maybe 10 to 15 minutes at the most. And we're going to try to do it in a logical and almost chronological order. So this first episode, we're going to talk about list building and things like that. Like I said, we're going to talk about how to buy an army, building a list, setting up a table, Recon Roll, starting the game. It sounds like a lot, but once you do it a few times, everything makes sense and it flows very logically. And the game will kind of tell you how to do things and what to do with them. So don't feel overwhelmed if you've never played before. The game is set up in a way to get you playing. Before we dig in, I do want to let you know I have the Night Stalkers episodes coming soon. Like I said, I'm going to CincyCon and Adepticon, and my schedule is kind of picking up again for the convention season, so there's a good chance that videos are going to be a little bit fewer and farther between. I'll probably do some recaps of some of the conventions and stuff like that. Like after Adepticon, I'll do a recap of all my games. I'll try to remember to take pictures. I'll do a list preview before Adepticon. So if you're going to Adepticon and you're playing in the Firefight tournament, maybe check it out if you think you're going to play me, because you're going to know exactly what I'm bringing before I even get there. And actually, I'm going to have old TK give a breakdown on Dreadball and how it compares to Blood Bowl. So it's going to be very similar to my Old World Kings of War and my 40k Firefight videos. But we're going to do it with TK just to kind of change it up a little bit. And, most of the Blood Bowl stuff that I have done has been very TK-centric. So if TK is not your jam, I apologize. But if you do love you some TK, there's going to be a little bit more content for that coming soon. And then, like I said, after Adepticon, the Wasteland Warfare Settlement Rules recap is coming, and I'm going to kind of detail our campaign for that as well. I'm not going to probably do much in the way of, like, battle reports. My battle reports, I'll do a separate video kind of addressing why I set up my battle reports and streams the way that I do. There is a reason for it. I'm not going to dig into it right now. I'll probably actually record that as soon as I'm done here. This is going up on Friday, but not the Friday that I thought it was. We were going to have Old World Orcs versus Tomb Kings, but it actually ended up being Wood Elves. But we'll probably get some more Old World streams going. And then Intro to Firefight stream did happen Tuesday morning. I'm just a little late recording this, so I apologize. Last but not least, we've got our big shout out to Military Gaming Command. I really appreciate what they do, militarygamingcommand.org. Great community, great group of individuals that support veterans, which is a cause that's very near and dear to me as I am a veteran myself. All right, the first thing you want to do when you look at Firefight is you want to buy an army, right? That's kind of like the first step for any war game. Or, if you've got homies that have armies, maybe just borrow an army, things like that. But when you're ready to buy an army, you've got a lot of things to consider. You got to consider aesthetics, play style, and, do you have friends? So aesthetics, you want to make sure you pick an army that you like the look of visually. And this is the order of priority here is going to vary depending on you, the player. For me, aesthetics and playstyle are kind of very close. Playstyle will beat out aesthetics, but aesthetics will cause me to buy an army, if that makes sense. So what I mean is if I look at an army and I'm like, oh, that's really cool, I'll buy it. And then if I play with it and I don't like the way it plays, I'm not going to keep it just because I like the way it looks. So, like, the aesthetics will cause me to impulse buy something, but the playstyle will cause me to just move it to somebody else. But you want to make sure you like the look of your army, because if you don't like the way they look, you're not going to want to build them, you're not going to want to paint them, you're not going to want to play with them. Obviously, that doesn't hold true for everybody. There are people who just don't care and either just want to play a game and they don't really care what their stuff looks like, or there are people who just buy whatever the hotness is for that game and they just are constantly rotating anyway, so they don't really have something that they're invested in emotionally. And none of that is wrong. That's all okay. But if you're just getting into tabletop wargaming and you're just getting into Firefight, make sure it's an army you like the look of. Playstyle, you want to understand how that army feels. This is more important for gaming veterans people who have been around the tabletop gaming community for a little bit longer, because they've developed their own play styles, they've developed their own mannerisms and things that they want. If you've never played, it can be a little tougher because you don't really necessarily have that history of concepts and history of play style. And some of the terms, if you're a video gamer, some of those terms can carry over to give you a concept of how that can work, right? Like you have Plague, which is a very aggro close combat, an aggro meaning aggressive, things like that. Enforcers are kind of a slow burn shooting army, in my opinion. They don't have to play that way, but that's kind of like their style. So there's different terms you could kind of bring from video games to tabletop in order to help understand what some of this is. But honestly, if you've never really played, get the models you like first, and then figure it out. Because if you don't like the way they play, it's pretty easy in most games to either find somebody who wants to trade or to just sell and buy secondhand. So that's not the end of the world. And then last but not least, do you have friends? If you don't have a community, you're going to be probably building that community unless you're a hobby-centric player. I am a play-first player. I am not a hobby-first player. That means if I can't play the game, I'm not keeping it because I want to be able to play it. That doesn't mean I'll buy a game simply because I can play it. It means if I can't play it, I'm not going to keep it. So there's some fantastic 2-player starter boxes that will give you everything you need to play. And I mean everything. And we're actually going to take a look at some right now. But before we do that, just know that they're priced really well. And through Mantic Direct, you pay retail, but they have a point system for discounts. And then you can also get discounts through some local stores. So we're going to take a quick break to look at that. Okay, so we're going to start off looking at the Battle for Cabot 2-player starter set. There we go. It's $140 retail. Like I said, you can get it cheaper on Amazon. You do get 14,000 reward points. I don't remember how they convert. And honestly, their conversion rate probably makes more sense in pounds. But it's like every 1,000 reward points is like 50 cents discount or whatever. Whatever it is, just know that points are accumulated for discounts. That being said, you get, I think it's 20 Enforcers operatives. Let's look. Yep, 20 hard plastic Enforcer operatives, 5 Peacekeepers, and 2 jet bikes. You can convert one of these Enforcer operatives into a captain or one of your Peacekeepers. That's what I did. I built one of my Peacekeepers as a Peacekeeper captain. And then the jet bikes. So these are all very good units to start with. They're a very good core. And the Peacekeepers, you can either build as defenders with the shields, or you can build as regular Peacekeepers without the shield. So they have a lot of good options. And then the Enforcers, you can either build as Assault or regular Enforcer operatives. So again, a lot of good options. Each army is going to get about 600 to 700 points, if I remember right. And then you do get all that dice you need to play. For the Marauders, you can either build them as the melee, which I think are brawlers, or the Commandos, which are shooty. And then you can build Rainmakers or whatever the melee equivalent of Rainmakers are. I can't remember what they are. They might be the brawlers. But the point is that you get a couple different units. You get some option. You get a good core for starting the game. It gives you all the stuff you need outside of a tabletop and terrain. So the 2-player starter set, very good. And then the other one I wanted to take a look at was this one, the Veerman and the Dwarf one. And the reason I wanted to look at this one is because this shows you a more elite force. You're still getting a good value. It's in pounds for whatever reason. But $140, there we go. You get tunnel runners, you get a tunneler, you get nightmares, you get, this one's awesome. And you get a ton of rats, which you can build as stalkers, crawlers, or you can kind of kit bash some maligny out of it. And then you do get an actual dedicated character model, a progenitor. There might be 2 progenitors in here. Or no, there's got to be 2. Let's see. 1 progenitor. Okay. I have a lot of progenitors, so I'm just Not sure how I came across them all. And then for the dwarves, you get, I think they're called Steel Warriors or Iron Warriors, something along those lines. Let's see. Yep, Steel Warriors. You get 15 of those. You get 6 Forge Guard. And then the tank, the Stern Hammer. And this gives you like multiple turret options. So you can actually just build all the turret options and swap them out based on what you want for WYSIWYG. So you have, again, a lot of options. And once again, it comes with everything. So if you've got a friend, these 2-player starter boxes are such a fantastic way to get into the game. So my first army was Enforcers, and this isn't bad. They're kind of like I don't want to say the good guys, but that's really what they are. They're kind of like part of the protagonist faction. The best analog, if you're coming from 40K, the best analog is Space Marines. But they're not going to be like current Space Marines where you have different chapters for all this other bullshit. They're going to be more like Old Hammer Space Marines where they're kind of a Swiss Army knife with their tactical Marines and they can do a little bit of everything. That's kind of how they fit. They're fun in their own way. They're kind of vanilla. They're not really my play style, but they are pretty durable. They're fairly easy to use, and they're pretty forgiving. So they're a great pick if you just can't pick an army, and this is your first time getting into the game, because they're gonna feel fairly easy to use and fairly easy to kind of work around and manipulate. Once you have your models assembled and, maybe painted, I still got gray plastic I put on the table occasionally. There's no judgment here. And like I said before, I'm a game first player. So sometimes it's more about what can I get on the table. But now that you have your models, you need to build a list, or it's called a Strikeforce. And at that point, it works like a lot of war games and tabletop games where both players agree on a points total for the game. For 1,000-point games, for example, both players would bring 1,000 points worth of models in their lists. My experience so far is that a lot of events, if you're a competitive player, tend to hover around 1250. But my experience as a player is that this game really sings in 1500 to 2000. Now, you don't have to go all the way up to 2000, but 1500 is where it really starts to kind of sing. At 1250, you're making a lot of sacrifices in order to get things on the table. And we're almost too small to play on a full-size table, in my opinion. So 1250, I think 1250 is to keep round times down is really what the goal is. At 1250, at Adepticon, they're 2-hour round limits. And, honestly, it's one of those where I get it. It's just one of those, I'd like to see it go to maybe 1500. And for local events, I probably will be running some 1500s. But right now, 1250 kind of seems to be the norm at events. But your Strikeforce has one mandatory or compulsory command slot. And that means you must bring one command unit. But that one command unit isn't tied to anything else. You have to take troops to unlock things, which we will get into. But you do get one command slot that isn't tied to that. Once you have your command unit, you don't even have to pick him first or her. You just know that you have one command unit, and then anything above and beyond that, you must have one troop unit to unlock either an additional command unit or a specialist unit, and every 2 troop units unlocks one support unit, but this is cumulative. And what I mean by this is if you bring 6 troops, you can bring 3 support slots, because 6 divided by 2 is 3, and up to 6 specialist or command slots, any combination. Units with the auxiliary keyword don't count towards unlocking. So engineers for enforcers are troops, but they don't unlock anything. And the reason they are troops then is because they don't take a slot either. So they don't take a slot, they don't give a slot. That's what they do. And then we're going to do a quick walkthrough for building a list. So we're going to jump back over. I'm going to pull up the companion app, and we're just going to do a quick list build. So as you can see on the screen, this is the companion app. I will do my best to describe it. So if you're not visibly watching, You'll understand what it is if you've ever used the companion app before. Up at the top, you'll see you have faction. You click it, it shows you the factions. Anytime you see beta, that just means that their rules haven't officially released yet. That doesn't mean you can't play them at events. That doesn't mean you can't use them. That just means that they're still technically in their playtest phase, and they haven't been 100% finalized. That's literally all it means. So don't get discouraged or feel confused by the term beta. It effectively just means that the rules aren't 100% complete, or at least haven't been officially finalized yet. But like the Asterians and the Night Stalkers will be pretty soon, is my understanding. All right, so we have all the factions, Asterians, and you want the Asterians beta because I believe this was like a big update. But the Asterians beta is the faction force you want if you play them. Enforcers, Forge Fathers, GCPS, Marauders, Mason Labs, Night Stalkers, Plague, Veermen. I will do a separate video kind of breaking down each faction as a whole and their play style. I'm not going to do that now. That would make this video very long. But we'll do one video where I'm like, here's what Asterians do. Here's what I think they do well, very briefly, and just kind of do it for everybody. I know I've been doing deep dive videos. I'm probably going to do one on every faction at some point, but this will just be a quick overview of everybody. For now, we're going to pick Enforcers. Now, we have a couple options. I can hit Quick Create, or I can just hit Create New List. The difference is going to be if I hit Quick Create, it literally just takes me into the list builder. It sets it to a default 1,000 points, and it automatically names it like Enforcers or something along those lines. Whereas if I hit Create New List, it pulls up all my options. I can set the points limit. So let's say I'm going to set it to 1250 because I'm going to maybe build a list for tournament play. Now I actually have to repick my faction. Because the faction selection is for Quick Create on the other screen. And game type, we're just going to do normal. Annihilation is a more vehicle-centric game type. I've not played it. I've heard good things about it. I don't play games like this for tanks. I play games like this because I was a grunt, and I want to put grunts on the table. So we then hit Create New List. Oh, army name, video test. And then we create new list. So from here, this just looks like a hot mess. If you're using it on your phone, you're going to see a plus sign at the top. You hit that, and it'll pull up this list of units. You're not going to see them all, and I apologize for that. Like, their names are a little bit cut off. But for now, right, let's build out the two-player starter set. Let's start there. So we have Enforcers. We have Assault Enforcers, right, and Enforcer Operatives. We're going to do this quick and easy. We're going to click Enforcer Operatives. That's going to bring up our Enforcer Operatives. And that's just like the bare minimum squad. Now we can click on this right here. It's like a little square with a pencil in it to edit it. It's just a very standardized edit button. And this gives us all our options. That being said, we could, let's trash this unit, go over here to our Enforcer Operatives. We could hit the plus, not the plus sign. Man, I ate a lot of crayons this morning, so we just click on them, and then it gives us a little drop down, and we can also just do our options here. These are defenders. We didn't want these. We want Enforcer Operatives. So now we have a leader. We can give the leader a wrist blade and a pistol, or a gauntlet and a pistol. For now, we're just going to keep him with the rifle. And then we can, up to 2 Enforcers can have some sort of special weapon. So let's give this handsome fella a burst laser. And this one we're going to leave plain. And then this one we're not going to make a medic, but we could. And then this bottom line means we get 1 Enforcer at the base loadout. And it's included in the 130 points. So this is what you get for 130 points. Now each additional is going to be 25 points. So you could take up to 4 extra. So we could have 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 4 more is 8. And that's 75 extra points. So that would give us 10 of our 20 Enforcer Operatives, right? So let's do that, just for simplicity's sake. Bam. So that's 215 points out of our 1,250 points. And so now, let's say we want to take a squad of Assault Enforcers. And we just want a big squad. I prefer smaller squads for Enforcers, but this is just for demonstration purposes. So now you have your Assault Enforcer leader. Now we do want maybe an energy gauntlet or phase clause on him. Doesn't matter. We'll give him the energy gauntlet. So that's 5 extra points. And those options are in the box. So I'm just building it based on what's in the box. The phase clause are not. So we're not going to put them on there. So we can give phase clause. We're not going to. We can give a thermal rifle. We're not going to. What we want is we want a unit that has all wrist blades for the volume of melee. Okay? So then, boop, we see that this has options. This has options. This has options. And now we are to the point where we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And we can add one for default loadout, right? Add one. Add one. And then add one. So this guy is always in there. And this is where be patient with the companion app. I think it's fantastic, but it's not without its quirks. If you look at the regular enforcers, you're going to see you have this down here, a drop down where you can just select a bunch of extra bodies. Whereas in the assault enforcers, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have to skip all the way down to the bottom to get to your last compulsory model. And then everything in between there is your options. So it's kind of weird. So just be patient with it. So now we're going to hit plus, and we now have a 210-point unit of assault enforcers. So now we've covered all of the enforcers that are available inside of the box. So now we're going to do an assault enforcer captain. No, we're not. We're going to do a peacekeeper captain. So we'll click here. We'll see the options. We don't have a phase claw option in the box, so he's just going to have a wrist blade. Now, he can have peacekeeper friends. They're just base peacekeepers, and there's nothing wrong with that. Base peacekeepers are pretty good. So we're going to give him one peacekeeper friend with the default loadout. So that's 40 extra points, because remember, there's 5 peacekeepers in the box. And now, we can either take 3 peacekeepers, or we could take 3 peacekeeper defenders. Let's take peacekeeper defenders, just because. So he's got, we can take 1 additional, and then he can take an incinerator or a burst laser. Let's give him a burst laser, and then we hit plus. And you can see we can get 725 points very comfortably out of this box. Now we could actually squeeze more out of it if we wanted to by building it a little differently. So we could drop the friend here, update list entry. We could drop the friend here, in the defenders, update list entry, and then we could use that to just take an additional unit of peacekeepers, and now we just squeezed a couple extra points out of it. It's nothing major, but we did get 730 points out of it. And that is out of the 2-player starter set. So you could literally, you and a friend buy 2 2-player starter sets, have more than enough to play a 1,250 point or 1,500 point almost tournament, and have a good core starting base for your army. And once you split everything in half, you've each spent $140 on the game. It's just one of those, I wanted to break that down for everybody. But now you see we've got our compulsory command, so we could take an additional command. We've got troops. So now if we go down towards the middle of the, and we'll slide this over so you can see it a little better. If you go down towards the middle of the section here, it's got a breakdown of your list. So like I have 5 total units. My total unit strength is 8, which we're not going to dig into right now. But I have 3 troops units and 0 supports units. But I have 1 specialist, 1 command. So it does tell me what I've taken. But then also, current slots available, it tells me right here, just underneath that, I have 1 support and up to 3 specialist or command still available. So I could take maybe a Strider and then 3 more specialist or command units to fill out the rest of my army. So just wanted to give everybody a rundown on list building. So that's how you build a list. And now we're going to jump and let old TK give you a little word from Fourth Wall.
Hello, sports fans. It is I, your burliest, beefiest, butt-bashiest badass, old TK here, and I must say, I'm looking rather dapper. Old TK looks so gosh dang good 'cause he gets all his sweet Phoenix Gaming merch from the Fourth Wall Phoenix Gaming store. It is stuffed to bursting with Trez Chick designs, like this handsome hoodie that features sleeve logos and a fiery phoenix emblazoned on your beefy chesticles. And for those mornings where you simply feel you cannot get out of bed and feel the need to have boiling hot bean juice caress your innards until your trebuchet is loaded and ready for launch, there is this extremely vivid Phoenix Gaming logo mug, guaranteed to hold your liquids. So if you are too cool for school and so bad you should be in detention, just like old TK, you need to go to phoenixgaming-shop.fourthwall.com and get your official Phoenix Gaming merch. Link in the description.
And now we're going to talk about setting up a table. I was going to do a demo of it, but I'll probably do another video on it. And I did one already, so I'll make sure there's a card up also. So you can watch that video. I want to try to keep this short, and this is already going a little longer than I had intended. So we're not going to do a full breakdown, but I did do a video kind of talking on it before. You can choose mission and scenario if you like from the rules, but for your first game, I just recommend putting models on the table, getting comfortable with moving, shooting, and adjusting to the game structure. If you come from Warhammer, the first couple games are gonna be really weird. If all you've played is 40k, for example, the first couple games are gonna be pretty bizarre. And that's not good, it's not bad, it just is what it is. So just for the first game or two, just put models on the table, move, shoot, get comfortable with the game structure. If you do decide that you want to play a mission for your first game, you've got two options. There's missions that require actual objective markers. If you play those, I highly recommend putting the objectives on the table before terrain, and then use the objectives to build out the terrain and tell the story of the game. Now that doesn't mean... So when you go to an event, let me say it this way. When you go to an event, they're going to have terrain out, and they're going to put objectives down, because TOs just won't have the time to reset tables in between each round. I've been there, I've done it, it's brutal. That being said, if you're just playing with a friend, I would probably place objectives and then build the terrain, or at least if you're going to put the terrain on first, do it with objectives in mind, especially if you're a more like narrative player. When you do place your terrain, however, just know that in my experience, having a higher volume of smaller features is a much more balanced game. And it's much easier for you to move and navigate through. And the best way to kind of describe it is if you come from 40k, if you played in 9th edition, think about the official GW layouts for 9th. We had 4 12-inch templates on the table. So we had a small volume of high size, right? A small volume of really big footprints. But then if you look at how 10th is laid out, it's a higher volume of smaller footprints. And so in my experience with Firefight, much more so than 40k, but with Firefight, you really do better by having more features that are smaller than less features that are larger. Obviously, if you're doing like a narrative game, you're going to do what you want to do, and that's fine. I'm talking from a gameplay balance perspective. I have found that more volume, smaller features tends to be better for the game. Once you have terrain on the table, you're going to do your recon roll and get ready to start the game. Now that the table is set, you do the recon roll. Before we do the recon roll, we're going to do a quick rundown on command dice and what they are, and then we'll talk about how the recon roll works. Command dice are dice that you get from units with the tactician keyword. Command units, I think all command units, let's double check, but I'm pretty sure all command units just have tactician. I've never seen one that doesn't, but that doesn't mean they don't. All of the enforcer ones do. I thought so. So again, command dice come from command units, and then other non-command units that have tactician. Each tactician keyword has a colored square next to it. It's actually like a weird diamond because it's like a die at an angle. But you have green, you have orange, you have black. You can have one green. You could theoretically have two green, right? One orange or two orange. I've seen two orange. The tunneler, the psychic tunneler gets it. The tangle, that's what it's called. And then you can have like two black, one black. You get one die of the corresponding color for every symbol you see. So the Peacekeeper Captain has Tactician green. So he has one green pip. And that one green pip means he contributes one green Tactician die to your command pool. Now, you have non-command units such as the Teratons or some of the drones and enforcers will give you Tactician. They still contribute to the command pool, right? So if you have two black pips, like you get from, I think, the Enforcer Jet Bike Lieutenant, that means he contributes two black dice to the command pool. And then you're going to roll command dice at the start of every turn for command points. We'll kind of dig into that. But then you also roll command dice for your recon roll. However, the recon roll uses command dice only from commanders. Non-command tacticians do not contribute to the recon roll. Both players roll their command dice for the recon roll, and you re-roll in case of tie. However, you don't get to re-roll dice in the recon roll, if I remember correctly. You only get to re-roll dice in the command dice roll. So if I have a Peacekeeper Captain and I have an Enforcer Assault Captain, the Peacekeeper gives me a green, the Assault Captain gives me an orange. So I will roll one green die and one orange die for my recon roll, regardless of any non-command tactician units. Each command die has swords on it. Each sword is a pip. You count the number of pips. Whoever has the highest roll wins. So, that's a lot of words. But the biggest thing to note is that if I roll 3 pips on the green command die and 2 pips on the orange command die, I have a final result of 5. If you roll more than that, you win. If you roll less than that, you lose. And then if we tie, we re-roll completely. So highest score wins and chooses to either pick the table edge, deploy and activate first, or allow their opponent to do those things. That being said, if you pick the table edge, deploy and activate first, right? You're going to pick table edge based off of deployment zones. You're going to put your whole army down, and then you're going to allow your opponent to do the same thing. They're going to go to their table edge. They'll put their whole army down. And then once that's done, you're going to be ready to start the first turn. There's some nuance there. If I roll a 5 and you roll a 3 on our recon roll, I beat you by a difference of 2. So if I choose to deploy and activate first, I actually get to hold 2 of my units because that's what I beat you by, a difference of 2. So I get to hold 2 of my units. I put down my whole army, and then I can keep 2 units off the table. You'll then deploy your whole army, and I put those 2 units on the table. So winning a recon roll and then choosing to activate first allows you to effectively bank a number of deployments equal to the difference in the recon rolls, so that you can see how your opponent is going to activate, or is how your opponent is going to deploy, and then deploy a couple of units based off of it. It's not a redeploy. It is a hold 2 off to the side and put them later. So again, with my enforcers, a lot of times what I will do is if I win that recon roll, I'll either hold my enforcer Peacekeeper Captain or one or both of my striders, depending on the opponent, so that I can place them where I think I'm going to need them the most or to protect them more. So like if I'm playing against Forge Fathers, if I choose to deploy first, I may deploy and activate first, and then I might go hold my Striders back so that I can see where maybe their tank is going to go. And then I can put my Striders down in a position to hide from the tank and maybe be as close to or as far away as possible, etc. But you only get that if you choose to go first. Because if you deploy second, you just get to see their whole deployment anyway. So once you've got all your deployment done, you're now ready to roll your command dice to generate command points and start your turn. We will do that in the follow-up video. We will start with rolling command dice. We'll talk about command points. We will talk about orders. And we will go through a full turn. And then again, I did do an intro stream game last Tuesday, like 4 days ago. And I walked a new first-time player through the game start to finish. So I will also make sure I link that in the comments. Make sure you check it out because I try to really go as slow as possible so that, Dan has a great idea and he's not feeling rushed and he understands everything as completely as possible. And then once again, if you are going to be at CincyCon this weekend, starting tomorrow, it's in Cincinnati. I'm going to be running Firefight in either Dead Zone or Halo demos. It'll probably be Halo simply because my Spartans are painted, and I don't know that I have enough painted to do Dead Zone demos right now. So yeah. If you're there, make sure you say hi. I'll be there Saturday running events. Sunday, I will probably be walking around with my daughter, and we will be kind of having a good time looking at the different vendors that might be set up, stuff like that. And then, again, I appreciate all the support. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. And I do want to, I haven't done it consistently, and I always feel bad, but I do want to shout out my patrons. Dan the Man, who is the gentleman that came and did the intro stream game. And then my other patron, Lord Wellingstone. There we go. Big shout out to him, Kevin. I appreciate the support, buddy. I also appreciate how much you do for your AOS community. You guys are fantastic. And I hope everybody has a great and wonderful and safe weekend. Thank you.